The Author's Corner, with your host, author Kimberly McLemore, as she welcomes her guests into the studio to discuss excerpts of their book.
All right, good evening, and welcome to Vigilant Broadcasting Radio Station. I am your host and author, Kimberly McLemore, and thank you for tuning in tonight to my show, The Author's Corner. Tonight we have two amazing guests in store for you, but before we get started, let me just take a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit more about myself and the purpose of this show. I am the author of How to Be a Success by Just Being You. Are you living or existing the pros and cons of balancing life? And I'm the 2019 ILA Award Author of the Year for Social Awareness for my book, Memoir, Deception of the Heart, A Real Look into Domestic Violence. I am also the CEO of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, the host of the podcast, Your Resource for Success, on iHeartRadio, the founder of Author Kimberly McLemore, LLC, co-owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP, and owner of Vigilant Broadcasting. The purpose of this platform is to provide new existing authors an opportunity to promote their books, talk about their events, speaking engagements, and, of course, tell us how we can get a copy of their book. But let me introduce to you my very first special guest, best-selling author Dr. Essie McCoy, author of The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming Urban Schools. Dr. McCoy is an award-winning educator and an Amazon best-selling author. She received her doctorate in education and an educational specialist degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, a master's degree from Appalachian State University, and a bachelor's of science degree from Winston-Salem State University. She is the president and CEO of her own educational consulting business, Dr. Essie Speaks. In addition, she serves as a faculty member at George Mason University and works to assist with the transformation of a high school in the DMV area. Furthermore, you will see Dr. McCoy once a month on the I Am Dr. Sharon show, hosting about educational topics. The segment is entitled Education First. Dr. McCoy has also received many awards and accolades for her service in the field of education and continues to make a powerful impact in making a difference. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my special guest, Dr. Essie McCoy. Hello, Dr. Essie.
Good evening, and how are you, Miss Kimberly?
I am doing great, and it is so great to hear your voice, and I'm happy that we have the opportunity to speak this evening with each other.
Thank you, and I am delighted to be on your show, and thank you for asking me to be a special guest this evening.
Absolutely. You have a lot to talk about, and you have a lot going on. But before we dive into all the questions and talking about this book and some other books that you have coming out and are already out, tell us a little bit more about who you are and, give a little background about who you are and what you got going on to the listeners.
So thank you once again, and thank you for sharing my biography with everyone. Definitely, I just want to say that I retired from the state of North Carolina after serving almost 30 years in the field of education from pre-K through higher education. So I've been in the field making an impact, making a difference, and actually served as a school principal for almost 20 years in school administration and had the opportunity to really go into inner city schools and transform them. And so my book, The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming Urban Schools, that is what it is all about. It's really talking about my experience, my journey in doing the work. And as I always say, it is hard work, but it is also hard to work. I continue to work in the field of education. I work a little bit at George Mason University. Also, I work, as you indicated, at a local high school, trying to assist them in making an impact and making a difference. So I love the field of education, and I love sharing with others about strategies and techniques and things that they can implement within their own schools and just their own leadership style in order to make a positive impact.
Awesome. Yes, and you definitely have spent pretty much like half your life doing this, and I think it's great because a lot of times when we are, getting our education, we're getting all of our degrees, most of the time we don't always get the opportunity to utilize those degrees in the field of work that we have chosen. And so it's always great to hear when somebody really has the opportunity to do something that they love, and you absolutely love education and teaching. But what I wanted to talk a little bit about before we dive into the books to the one book first, and then we'll get into some of the other ones that you have coming soon. Talk a little bit about the journey that you went through and the process of what it takes to become the educator that you are and how you got to all your doctors, because you have a multiple amount of degrees and you're constantly working to improve yourself. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So indeed, I have been very blessed and had the opportunity. I tell the kids when I go into the different schools and talk with educators, or if I'm talking with a group of students, I tell them, I've been to 12 different colleges and universities throughout the nation, or I've taught there. And so I let them know that education is very important. However, it is not the only way, and we can definitely talk a little bit about that later. But it's very important that you do what you love and love what you do. And I just wanted to be a teacher. I can recall in high school, wanting to emulate a first cousin that I had who's no longer with us, unfortunately. However, she made a lasting impression on me. She was not in the field of education, but I just knew I wanted to be a teacher. I had no idea that my journey would take me to where I am today. But I love the fact of learning. I love being involved in schools. I love being in the classroom. I just love sharing my knowledge with others. So it has been a long journey, and I once again continue that journey. But it's all about giving back and making a difference. I have had an opportunity to participate in a multitude of leadership programs, from Harvard University to Howard University to Wake Forest University, North Carolina State, Carolina, Winston-Salem State University, Appalachian, UNCG, so you just name it. I've taken the advantage of every opportunity that has been presented to me in order to really positively impact my skills and my abilities. So you never can learn enough, and I am still on that journey. I am still learning and still giving back and sharing my knowledge with others.
Mm-hmm. And I just love what you said. You can never learn too much. You're absolutely right. Because I think a lot of times as we grow and we feel that we've made it, so to speak, using that terminology, that we do sometimes forget to continue to move forward. But that's how you continue to grow. And like you said, you're the type of individual, and what you do every day is you share your resources of learning. Everything that you've accomplished, you're constantly out there giving back in a way that most people wouldn't do. So talk to me a little bit more about your business, Dr. Essie Speaks. What is it that you provide in your business for individuals out there, your clientele?
So definitely, Dr. Essie Speaks, and you can go to my website, www.dressiespeaks.com, and I really focus on coaching and writing books and speaking engagements and just really helping educators to be the best that they can be. Now that I am really intensely helping a high school, of course, working there and making an impact, making a difference, I don't have as much time to focus in on my business. However, I am still writing. I am writing more books, and we'll have about 5 books out by the end of this year. And those are collaboration projects that I'm involved in. But definitely just making sure that if someone asks me to come and speak to a school, whether I'm talking to educators or whether I'm talking to kids, I will definitely look at my calendar and try to schedule a time that I can go and just share my knowledge with them. And, people look at me and they think, oh, my goodness, she was given a golden spoon.
Right.
She's never had it hard in life. And in my book, I talk a little bit about that. So it's very important that I share my journey, share my knowledge with people, and let them know that I haven't always been the Dr. Essie McCoy that is presented in the public today. It was a journey. It was a process. And you just have to believe in yourself and keep moving forward no matter what. And just once again, I cannot say enough about loving what you do and do what you love. That really makes a difference.
Yeah, and you're right. A lot of times people always see just the shell. They see you've made it and everything looks so glamorous, and we all know that is not the real story. No matter whether you're an educator, no matter what type of business you're in, even if you're not in business, every day it's something new, and as you continue to get older, you continue to grow. And so you talk to individuals out there, these listeners who may be listening right now saying, ooh, I want to be just like Dr. Essie. Give them that raw understanding of what it really means to be the educator that you are today and the doctor that you are today.
Well, thank you for allowing me to do that. And indeed, I tell people, and it's in my book, I'm pretty transparent, that I came from a family of 5, so I have 4 brothers and sisters, 5 of us in all. My father stopped in the 9th grade, and my mother stopped school in the 8th grade. So they did not even have a high school education. But let me just say, they gave me more than what education can possibly give me, the character and the morals and the values. And they really instilled the importance of getting a good education. And so I didn't know at the time when I was in middle school and high school that my parents didn't graduate from college. They just said, make sure you work hard, you study hard. So if you want to be a Dr. Essie McCoy, you're going to have to really work hard. You're going to have to read. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to apply yourself. You're going to have to look at your strengths and how can you continue to build and extend your capacity. You're going to have to look at areas that you want to grow in. Don't be afraid to go into places where you might be uncomfortable, because you're going to gain something from that. Don't be afraid to say yes to an opportunity that will allow you, once again, to feel uncomfortable, because you're going to stretch yourself. And when you stretch yourself, you really get to know who you are, and you can really make an impact and give back. And that's what I tell people all the time. You might look at, once again, me as I am today, but it has been a process. It has been a journey. I grew up poor, and so, many people are really surprised when I tell them that. But I am very thankful and grateful for every single thing that has occurred in my life, because guess what? I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't have those experiences. And so, once again, I say I am grateful that I've been blessed to have this journey, and I get an opportunity to share throughout the nation with educators and just anybody who's willing to listen about how you really can make an impact and make a difference in the field of education.
Absolutely. But the thing I love the most that you just said was the foundation was what was most important. Your parents' impact on you was what made you continue to move forward and dream, that dream you had become a reality. And that's the thing I love. Like I said, it's not always about the education. It is truly what you have coming from home. And sometimes there are many children, even though whether poor or rich or whatever the case may be, middle class, whatever you want to name them, they don't always have that foundation from home. So it's always great to hear that, we have stories like yours where you're coming from nothing into something. And even though it's not about the richness of finances, you have richness within that foundation of your family. And that's the thing that really stuck out to me, because you're right, that when you can have people who have your back and people who are pushing you consistently and giving you the things that you need to have, that nourishment that helps you grow, you become the person that you want to be. And I think that is the thing that's most important about, no matter whether you want to be an author or whether you want to be, like we said, a doctor or any other business that you decide to choose, those things do help you move along within your journey. So congratulations, and I applaud your parents for that, because I know you very well. We've known each other now for a couple of years, and you are the most wonderful individual I've ever met. Your spirit is amazing, and I love how you connect with people. So you're definitely doing your job.
Well, thank you so very much, and thank you, because guess what? I would probably not be an author today if it were not for your assistance and you being my coach. So I definitely am indebted to you, and I thank you for all that you have done. And I just want to go back to something that you said about success and richness. You're exactly right. It's not about the monetary things or how many things you can gain in life, but it's about giving back and making a difference. What are you going to do with your life? What kind of legacy are you going to live? What is it that you're going to share with others so that when you're gone, it can live on and on because of the impact that you have made? And that is so very important, that our young people do not get caught up in the material things, but they get caught up in giving back and making a difference and helping someone else along the way, inspiring and motivating others. Those things are the critical things that we need to really promote and advocate for.
Absolutely, absolutely, well said. And for those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Vigilant Broadcasting. This is live on the Author's Corner. Again, I am author Kimberly McLemore. I'm the host of this amazing show, but I have this amazing author, Dr. Etsy McCoy, and she's talking about her book, The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming into Urban Schools. So now let's dive a little bit into the book, and then, of course, I would definitely like you to talk about all the other new books that you have coming out this year, because you have been quite busy.
Indeed, I have been.
I was like, wow, this girl's kicking them out this year, and it's amazing because collaborations are very important, and you have definitely got some great information to share with us. So I'll go ahead and let you dive into some of those books, and then, of course, let's talk about your first book, though.
Okay, I'll do that. So my first book, once again, The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming Urban Schools, is really about my experience, my journey. Once again, I served 30 years in the field of education, and I'm still in the field of education, but it's really about going into challenging schools, highly impacted schools, and really making a difference. Also in the book, I talk a little bit about my foundation of early beginnings, because I think it's very important that kids know that I grew up poor, that I grew up with parents who did not graduate from high school. I'm not ashamed of that. That is who made me and helped me to become the person that I am. So definitely I talk about that in my book. I talk about leading in an era of high accountability mandates, because when I started in school administration, that is when back then No Child Left Behind and the new laws that we have in place, that is when all that came about. And so I had to really let people know that I didn't, sit at my desk. I did very challenging things and went into schools that were very, once again, highly impacted and really made a difference. And those schools became Piedmont Signature Schools. Also, leading schools to success. There's a whole chapter in there about it, and it's a very quick, easy read, and they can take some golden nuggets and apply those right away. I talk a little bit about being a highly effective leader and those leadership competencies for school leaders. So all of that is embedded in the book, and I can tell you, you will walk away being inspired and also have some practical strategies and applications that you can apply to your own work and to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, and in the book, which one of the chapters do you feel is the closest thing and the most important thing that you really wanted to reach out and give to people as far as those gold nuggets that you're talking about?
Wow, there are so many. Also, Kimberly McLemore.
I know. I put you on the spot.
But it depends on who's reading the book. So if a young child picks up the book and they read the book, I want them to be inspired and motivated by the simple fact that, hey, she grew up poor. She grew up with parents who did not graduate from high school. Perhaps I can do what she did, or do even more, or whatever they aspire to be, whether they want to go into the military, or they want to become an entrepreneur, or they want to go into an apprenticeship, or, anything that they want to do. I want them to get the understanding and walk away with, I can dream, and I can dream big, and I can create and make my dreams become a reality. So that's for the kids and the young people out there. And then when you talk about the other chapters, looking at, how did I lead schools to success? It is hard work, but it is hard work. And also those highly effective leadership skills. You have to be a highly effective leader in order to turn a struggling school around, in order to turn a school around that is going to be taken over, quote unquote, by the state. So you have to have those strong leadership skills in order to do that. So it depends on the audience who is reading the book and what they want and what they need. And I try to make it so that everyone who had an opportunity to read, they could take something away and apply it right away.
Exactly. Yeah, and it definitely is a good book. I have a copy of my own, of course. And you're right, it's one of those books that's an easy read, but it helps you. You don't have to be an educator in order to understand and get something and learn something out of it. And that's what I loved about this book. Because a lot of times, people will start to feel intimidated when they feel that they don't have something they can connect with, but you can absolutely connect with this book. So congratulations on that book. So now let's dive in for a couple minutes on the new books you come out. But first, talk to me about your how you became a best-selling author. Yeah, go for it.
So So definitely, I have quite a few books coming out this year. My first book, let's go back to that was actually published in September of 2018, and that has done really well. Once again, The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming Urban Schools. And then I participated in some collaborative projects with people around the nation. And so Coaching Champions is one of the books that became a bestseller. How do you coach others, and how do you really improve and lead others to success? So there's a wonderful chapter in there. It talks about coaching champions endure until the end. So definitely I would want people to get a copy of that. Also, I'm in a sorority, and we wrote a book along with other girlfriends from around the nation, the Girlfriend Code Sorority Edition. So if you're an AKA or in any sorority, definitely get a copy of this book. And I actually just, hopefully we will be sharing a little bit more about the most recent book that I completed, and that is Walking in Excellence, so Women of Virtue. And also Leadership Tidbits is another book that will be coming out this year. So I'm really excited about all the projects that I've been in, and I am just wanting it to get in the hands of people so that they will know they too can share their story, their journey, and help somebody else along the way. And that's really what it is all about. And I'm just so blessed and so fortunate that God gave me the gift of writing. And I love to, when I have the time, if I had nothing else to do, that is all that I would do, is just write and share with others about different things. So definitely those books are coming out this year.
Yes, they are, and they're going to be phenomenal. And because you've definitely collaborated with some amazing other women, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing those books come out. And the thing I love what you just said here was that, you know, if you had the opportunity to write every day, you would. And it's funny because I can remember when we first met, you were scared to death with the writing, you know. You had everything there, and you were like, oh, my gosh, you know, this is a huge process, and it is. And now you have soared. You know, you're no longer just flying, you are soaring. So, again, congratulations on all your accomplishments in your books. So please tell our listeners how they can find your books and how they can get a hold of you.
Well, indeed, you can go to my website, www.dressiespeaks.com, and just click on the different information there, the different links, and you can see the books. Also, I am on all the social media platforms, author Dr. Essie McCoy. Also, Instagram, eMcCoy2018, LinkedIn, Dr. Essie McCoy, also Twitter @eMcCoy. And, of course, Amazon.com. You can go there and get copies of my books as well.
Okay. And do you have any upcoming events or any engagements that you would like to share with us?
So actually tomorrow we do have an engagement, and we will be talking about one of the books, and that is Women of Virtue, Walking in Excellence, and we will be sharing inspirational stories of character, wisdom, courage, and strength. And so that is tomorrow from 3 until 4 p.m.
Awesome. Well, again, like I said, congratulations. And do you have any last words that you would like to share with our listeners this evening?
I do, and thank you so very much. And once again, to all of the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to author Kimberly McLemore for having me as a special guest. And I want to leave you with several things that I've already shared, and that is do what you love and love what you do, and you will never, ever go wrong. You will be able to flourish in your passion. And it's so critical that we walk in our element and we walk in our destiny, but you have to allow yourself to grow. Don't be afraid to take on an opportunity. Even if you don't have the skills for it, you will grow, you will learn, and you will continue to develop. And so that's so very important. Also, make sure that, you know, we talk about schoolwork being hard work, but it is also heart work. To the young people that are out there listening, I say to you, dream big. Please apply yourself. You know, education is just one way. I just love learning. That's why I have 4 degrees and been to 12 different universities throughout the nation. But there are other avenues. I have a daughter who's in the Coast Guard, and definitely the military is one way. I talked about being an entrepreneur. I have my own business, but I know young people who have come out of high school, and they also have their own businesses. You can do an apprenticeship. So don't be afraid to explore what you think you're passionate about, but just continue to move forward and just walk into your destiny. And so thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on to the show this evening. It's been phenomenal to talk to you, and it's such a pleasure to hear your voice again. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity to talk, but again, keep up the great work. And for everyone else, if you have missed this first portion of the show, you are more than welcome to go back and listen later. But we just got done talking and having a phenomenal conversation with Dr. Essie McCoy, who is the author of The Heart of School Transformation, My Journey into Transforming Urban Schools. Again, thank you for coming on the show this evening. In the meantime, we're going to take a real quick break before we bring our next guest. Again, good night, and thank you, Dr. Essie.
Thank you, and much success and many blessings to you.
Thank you. And like I said, we'll go to our commercial break. All right. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Author's Corner. Again, I am your host, author Kimberly McLemore. Now, let me introduce to you our next special guest author. Melissa Mimi Ewell, author of Blackberry Cobbler, is a wife, mother, minister, mentor, and a friend. Melissa Mimi Ewell is a missionary and humanitarian to the African nations of Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa. She is a relationship mentor, teaching women to pursue healthy relationships and recover from relationship trauma. Mimi is also a celebrated author who produces books and novels to inspire and uplift readers. Among these works are the collaborative book Marriage Chronicles, a guide to a resilient marriage, and her latest book, Blackberry Cobbler, the epic novel about life, love, family, and legacy. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Melissa. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. It's so good to hear your voice again. It has been a long time.
A long time.
Yes.
So good to hear your voice. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and welcome to the Author's Corner. I am so excited about having you on here and talking about your book because, oh, boy, it sounds like it's a juicy one. But before we dive into that, would you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you got going on?
I'd be happy to. As you mentioned, I am currently living in Accra, Ghana. I have been here, about maybe a year and a half full-time, and moving back and forth between assignments in Ghana and Kenya and South Africa that have to do with women's empowerment and ministry and leadership development and leading prayer teams. So it's been a very busy, exciting time. I am a mom, a wife. I have had 2 marriages. My first husband passed away, but I have 5 children, and they're all young adults now. So when they left the nest got burned, and I decided to just go see the rest of the world. So I'm having a great time,
Wow. Well, look, you didn't just leave the nest, you flew the nest, okay?
We burned it.
I'm out of here.
I've been waiting.
But I love it that you are actually living, your journey, your purpose. And talk
Absolutely.
to us more about your what you do in Ghana, because when I met you a couple years ago, I was actually been invited to come to Ghana, and obviously I have not made it there yet, and that's one of my goals, because we have a mutual friend between the two of us. So talk about your missionary there and your humanitarian work there a little more.
What I do for the most part is there's an organization here locally called OIM, Organization of International Missionaries, and it's a support organization that provides a platform for people who feel as if God is leading them to come and either do ministry here, or if they are involved in any kind of humanitarian work. We've had groups that come and speak to girls at high schools. We have groups that come and do widows ministry. Right now we actually have a team here that's into the medical field and mental health field, so they're coming and meeting with doctors and collaborating with local programs surrounding mental health, and just really coming to share whatever gifts, whatever calls, whatever wisdom you have. And what we provide are the on-the-ground wraparound services. So when you arrive at the airport, there's somewhere there to meet you up. We scout out locations for you to stay that are safe and affordable. We connect you with local organizations and churches, schools, groups that have credibility, so we're not going to take you someplace where you're off in the bush and nobody will ever find you again. This group has some really great relationships, and we just really facilitate the work that people are called to do by making it simple for them to just prepare themselves, come over, do what they have to do, and then, we're with them and supporting them and providing transportation so they never have to feel like they're landing on the ground and they don't know anybody. So that's basically what our goal is, to facilitate that group, and we're looking to expand into other countries and have missions teams and support teams in different countries wherever people want to go.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I love about your missionary work there is that allowing the individuals to come into the country and like you said, learn. They're sharing their craft. They're teaching other people and just giving their gift to others. And I think that's the thing that really stood out to me when it was talked to me and presented to me, a couple of years ago. At the time, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think never ready, but you never know what the journey, that God will lead you to. And so, like I say, you've been there for many years, actually, back and forth. And now that you're doing this and you guys are continuing to do these things, I think it's just phenomenal that you're inspiring other women specifically. I know that you're obviously working with men as well, but talk to me a little bit more about the programs and that you provide for women through your relationship and recovery type program that you work with women with trauma.
Correct. What I do is I lead an organization that's called ManFast, which actually is a biblically based women's relationship teaching model. So there are different classes and courses that we offer that really help women learn about the proper way we should be carrying ourselves in relationships. There's just so much information out there about dating and relationships and sexuality, and a lot of people make a lot of wrong moves simply because they just have never really been taught. So what ManFast does is it offers advice, wisdom, counsel, teachings, and it helps women get a very practical, biblical-based plan of how to live their life as a woman who is a sexual being but not driven by that. We minister to women who have been through some relationship trauma, whether it's through heartbreak or divorce or abuse. And, God has just given a lot of wisdom on how to help people recover and then move forward. And a big portion of what we do now, and one of the courses that I'm just about to launch in the next day or so, involves around marriage prep mentoring. There are a lot of women who desire to be married, but we don't always have the skills to know how to become a wife. Some women who don't really know how to date. They don't understand how to carry themselves. How do you protect yourselves? How do you set up boundaries? So a lot of times you just need somebody who's older and wiser and has some sound, solid advice to talk to. And that's some of the things that we are going to be doing through some self-study courses, and also I'm going to be on the other side of the mic as you're doing in the next couple of months, where I'm going to start doing some live podcasting where we'll just begin to do call-in shows and teaching, because the information is just so needed. So many women just need to be taught. They need to be encouraged. They need to get direction and guidance, because every move that they've made concerning love and relationships has ended, with another heartbreak, another disappointment. And before they totally give up on love, they need to be in a place and be surrounded in the community where there's sound wisdom and advice that can actually help them get to the place where they want to be.
Right.
And that's what ManFast is doing.
Okay, and that sounds like a phenomenal program. So are you going to be doing this program? Will it be available here in the States as well?
It's always been something that I've done online. So wherever I've been living, whatever country I've been living on, I just use the online platforms, and the classes are conducted by conference call. Actually, I'm really excited because I spent several months this summer actually in a recording studio with the training materials and a sound engineer, and I recorded every single session of a class of the classes, and they're about to be uploaded to our website. So people will be able to do the entire ManFast courses as a self-study, self-paced. They can order the training materials, order the recording for each class, download it, and then pace themselves and go through it. And then if they want some one-on-one mentoring, they can send us an email, and we can arrange a time to do conference calls. So the thing is, God blessed me to start this on an online basis, and it's just continued to go globally ever since it began about 2009. So for 10 years it's been. So I'm really not bound by any particular location. So anybody who wants it, has an internet connection, phone connection, they're able to get involved with it.
Wow. Well, yeah, I agree with you. That is definitely something that's needed, and because relationships are definitely a journey. And look, I probably need to get on some of those courses myself. I'm laughing over here, but I'm like, woo-wee, I'll tell you. It is definitely a journey and a lot to learn, and no matter what age you are, you're constantly learning when it comes to
Very true.
Yeah, and especially I think the thing that I like about what you're offering is that essentially as women we start to learn more about ourselves, because if we don't learn enough about ourselves, how can you actually be in that relationship? So
exactly.
So it's definitely exciting to hear about that. So but I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit, because we've talked a lot about the missionary and, you going back and forth to Ghana, and you've been there now for more than a year. But talk to me a little bit and the listeners about your journey prior to Ghana, what you had accomplished, what you've done, and what actually made you decide to go this direction that you are now for more than 10 years. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I think that journey began in terms of how I got to where I am now, probably in my early 20s when I became a Christian and got involved with ministry, and God really began to speak to me about being a woman in ministry and speaking. And there was a very long process of development where God put me under certain leaders and had me grow in a lot of different areas. During that time I got married, and like I said earlier, and I had children. And then about maybe 15, 16 years into my marriage, we had all our children. My husband developed a neurological condition, and we went through about a 7-year journey with his health continually declining. At that time, we just got very general diagnosis, nothing that they could really pinpoint. It was something that was presenting very oddly, but it was taking him down, and he was having some mobility issues. Eventually, he did not survive that, and at that point in time, we just kind of needed to pull ourselves up and get redirected and get my children in school and moving on to their directions. They were either in the early 20s and teens. I had a couple that were still finishing up high school. But after that, once we kind of all got back corrected, then the question from my life then became, what's next? What is it that God wants me to do? And we had always had, my first husband and I, we'd always had a desire to travel. We'd always had a desire. We had our own bucket list of places we wanted to go. And oddly enough, South Africa was one of them. Jamaica was one of them. Kenya was one of them, Nairobi. And he kind of made me promise before he died that I would go to the places that we dreamed about, that I would stand and put my feet in the oceans that we talked about going to see. So that was passion, and I'm also come from a family that's multicultural and biracial. And so I've always had this global perspective of the world. I was always looking for the next place to go. So this idea of moving and traveling and working in different parts of the world has been something that's always been a part of my desire, always been a plan. And when doors began to open, I just didn't hesitate to go. I just figured out what I needed to do, ended up getting married to another man who happens to be Ghanaian, who also travels extensively. So it's just kind of always been in my genes to do that. So I just, you know, you see something you want, you put your mind to it, you figure out what you need to do to make it happen, and you go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you definitely did, and I applaud you for that, because I'm sure, you know, it had to be very strenuous on you with, you know, having the children and then losing the life of your husband, your first husband. That's got to be difficult. But then, you know, him to ask you to move forward and live the dreams that you guys both thought about and was preparing to do, I think that is a beautiful blessing that he left behind for you.
Very much so. He said to me, I may not be here, but you need to continue to live. I want you to continue to live. And I just took that and sucked it up and ran with it. And, you know, I'm often asked the question about, you know, how did it feel for you to just, you know, leave your children? And,
right.
You know, how did it feel? And the thing about it is, you know, we gave them roots, but we also gave them wings. So they have a good foundation. They understand who they are. You know, they're finding their way in the world. They all have a great work ethic. They all have a sense of wanting to make some strides in their own life. But it's difficult for you to expect your children to excel and achieve their dreams if they don't see you going after yours. Mm-hmm. And so the example that I'm setting for them, it's not just me going off and leaving them behind, but I'm showing them that nothing is impossible. And when they look at the things they want to do, all they have to do is look at my life and say, you know what, she was brave enough to do that, I can do this. Yeah. And if she's able to make her life better by moving forward, then I can make my life better by moving forward. I don't tell them what they have to do. I just say find something you love. I appreciate that with Dr. McCoy saying that find something you love and pursue that and find a way to monetize that, and your life is set, you know. I try to tell my kids all the time, work in a field that you would do if you didn't even get paid. Get paid for it, but then you never have to work hard a day in your life. You get up every day and you're looking forward to achieving something good. And at the end of the day, you feel good about yourself. And self-actualization is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves, because we pat ourselves on the back, we have a sense of accomplishment, and no one can ever take that from you. No one can ever take that from you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing that a lot of times as adults and parents that we don't always tell our children, and you know, and I preach this consistently in my household, that it's great to get an education. There's nothing wrong with that, but we never really talk about the fact that, hey, get up and do something for you. You know,
exactly.
Take that education, utilize it, but get out there and do something for yourself, because that to me is important, because as you say, it's nothing worse than, you know, having a job, or, you know, and all you're doing is just having the job and getting a paycheck, because you're never happy.
Exactly.
You know, and I love how you said that, you know, look, you guys basically, you gave them the foundation, but we also gave you those wings. And that was perfectly said, because you're absolutely right that our children and anybody, you know, people watch what you do. So if you are sitting back doing nothing 90% of the time, they usually follow that path, because they see that, oh, this is what life is about, right? So you're actually setting something that most parents would never even think about, because, you know, I'm sure you've heard, I'm sure you've been criticized that, oh, you know, you left your kids, you're doing this and you're doing that, you're living your life, but you have a life, so why can you not live that life?
True. And in all honesty, some of them were grown and gone already. So
right.
It wasn't like, one was in the military, one had moved. So, but I encourage people to show your children by example that they can do what they want to do. It's nothing like sitting at home and saying one day, and one day never comes.
Yep.
Because then they'll think, well, I have all the time in the world. And the way people are, being taken out these days, every day is precious. I say make the best of it. And if you try it and it doesn't work, then you've gained a lifetime of experience of what not to do the next time. So I say go for it. Do the best you can. Go after your dreams.
You're absolutely right, because, that's a lot of things that I talk about, and I even wrote about the fact that there's too many people who live through the lens of others. Like you said, it's always that scenario of, oh, man, I wish I could do that, and, I want to be here, I want to do this and that. Why can't you? What is stopping you from not taking those steps and living your best life? And that's exactly what you're proving every day, that it can be done. And, like you said, it doesn't matter how you did it. And it's really not, to me, it's really not about what other people think, because we always worry about being conforming to what the world says we have to conform to. And so your journey has been phenomenal, and I appreciate the things that you are sharing this evening, because a lot of people still need to hear that. And like I said, there is no promise to tomorrow, but every day we get up and act like we have tomorrow. We say it every day. I'm going to do this tomorrow.
Right.
And we know that that's not always true. Tomorrow may not ever come.
Very true.
Yes. So, but before we move on to talk about the book, if you're just tuning in, I'm telling you guys, you have missed a phenomenal show this evening. This is Vigilant Broadcasting, and we're here live. I am author Kimberly McLemore here on the Author's Corner. I have my other special guest this evening with me, Miss Melissa Mimi Ewell, and she's going to be talking about the book that she has authored called Blackberry Cobbler. So why don't we dive into that now, because I love the title, and to know that this is an epic novel about life, love, and legacy. Talk to us about your amazing book, Blackberry Cobbler.
Yes, ma'am. This book, I'd like to call it like 80 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
The idea for this book actually came from a series of encounters and experiences I had at the time when my grandmother passed away, my paternal grandmother, my father's grandmother. Very instrumental in my life, huge support, just taught me everything about being a woman and a black woman and a wife and a businesswoman. And I was blessed with the opportunity to kind of be with her and my grandfather through the last couple of years of their life. And it turned out when she finally did pass away, just a little short of her 80th birthday, I was writing her obituary. At the time, I was 39 years old. And as I was going through her papers, I found a piece of paper that was folded, and when I unfolded it, it was kind of old and yellowed. It was actually her handwritten obituary that she had written for her grandmother, whose name was Easter. My grandmother's name was Irene. And I found the obituary that she'd written for Easter. And when I compared the dates, my grandmother was 39 when her grandmother died. So I felt this sense of connection. I also realized as I was reading Easter's obituary that she actually passed away the month I was born. So it was as if our spirits passed each other, coming and going, from heaven to earth. And I thought, wow, that's such a moment of connection. That's the word that I kept feeling, connection. And then a couple of days later, I'm going through some pictures, and I find one of my grandfather's mother, my paternal grandfather's mother, and on the back it had written her name and date of birth and date of death, and I realized she had actually passed away on February 22nd, and my grandmother Irene had just passed away on February 22nd. And I'm now feeling chills, like, my goodness, all these women who are direct descendants of mine, it's like they're all speaking to me and all reaching out. And, I'm very deeply into the word, so I'm not like into voodoo and stuff, but it just seemed such an odd occurrence. Mm-hmm. And then later that day, I found a picture. One of my cousins, who's kind of not really connected with family, young man had sent a letter to my grandmother, and it was his college graduation invitation. And he put a letter in there thanking my grandmother for all her support and all her prayers, and for the birthday card she sent him with the $5 in it, which my grandmother was famous for doing that. And he did not know. He's one of those people that's kind of not really connected. So nobody told him she passed away. So I'm just devastated. And I called my dad and my sister and I say, Lloyd Jr. is graduating and he was sending Granny an invitation. And they were like, well, of course we've got to go. So in that moment, I felt like my grandmother and my other grandmother and my great-grandmother were saying, we're passing this legacy to you. Mm-hmm. And you need to take this up and you need to move forward with it. And it was such a moving moment, a moment of destiny in the sense of when the elders are passing, if we don't pick up their legacy, it's going to die with them. And so that kind of became the catalyst of how do I capture that legacy. I didn't really feel like I wanted to write a book about our family specifically because nobody knows us, you know what I'm saying? We're not like the Obamas. But so I came up with this idea of a family and a woman who wanted to share her life with her younger generation so it would not die. So the family history, the family journey, her story would not die. And this book is the story of a young man who wants to marry this woman's granddaughter. And the woman says, you're going to have to come to our farm, and I'm going to teach you how to pick blackberries, and I'm going to teach you how to make blackberry cobbler because I want to see who you are. I want to find out. And the premise of the story is if a person spends a day with an 80-year-old woman and she tells you her life story, what kind of impact would that have on you? So the whole concept of legacy and one generation passing on the legacy to the next and preserving it for the next and preserving it for the next, not just our family story of when we lived and when we died and where we lived, but what were the lessons that kept us going? What were the stories that we need to remember? How did they overcome racism? How did they overcome poverty? How did they overcome death? Because the thing that a person who's lived that long has, the thing they possess, the gold of their life is that life experience. And these days we are so busy. We are always running. Everything is a text and an email. We have lost the ability to sit down with our elders and capture that wisdom and capture that gold and apply it to their life. And that's what this book is about. Taking what the last generations have passed on and then capturing that and coming up with a way to make sure we carry that on. Because those are the things that the way they survived is the things that are going to help us survive.
That's
and
right.
That's what the book is about.
That's right. And like I said, the title itself, but first when you first see the cover and the title, you're thinking, wow, what is this really about? And then if you truly look into it, like I said, an epic novel about life, love, and legacy, it just dawned on me after I kind of reviewed your reviews on your site there. I was like, oh, my gosh, you are so right to sit here and talk about the fact that what we don't do anymore is we don't sit down as families. A lot of families don't now. I'm a little bit of the older generation, so we still do this, but we don't take the time to sit down and talk to our kids. Tell them about the grandparents, the journeys, the things that they've been through. Like you said, to have to go through what your grandmother and great-grandmother went through is from, we're talking about Jim Crow. You haven't heard us talk about the South, the Jackson experience, all those things that they had encountered. That is leaving a legacy, but nobody wants to talk about those things. Like I said, we do live in a world where it's all about moving quickly, and everything was instant gratification. Nobody really truly wants to understand where did you come from and how did you get to where you're at today. And
exactly.
That book that you have, this book, Blackberry Cobbler, is exactly the example that everyone needs to do and read. But not so much just even read, but take those lessons that they're going to read and learn and then apply it to their own lives.
Exactly. And then to teach our children, because the one thing that our children need to know this day is how to survive. How do you get over tragedy? How do you bounce back? How do you have some resiliency in life? Because the one thing we know, if our family grew up in the Jim Crow South before we were even able to vote, and they're still able to end their life well, being property owners and and support for the church, then they learned how to overcome some horrific things, and they came out of it on top.
Yes.
And those are skills you don't learn by a book. Sometimes you have to sit down and let somebody speak that into your life and tell you their story. This is how I dealt with trauma. This is how I dealt with loss. And this is what you need to do to make it. And they have already survived. So in actuality, they've done the work. You know what I'm saying? They've gone through we just need to take what they did, embrace that, apply it, and then we'll get results. That kind of longevity is a gift, but it's something that you do. It's something you apply. And those are the lessons we need to learn today. If you live to be 80 years old, I want to know what were your critical success factors that got you there. Because that's a big thing these days. That's a huge, if you're living that way and you're in your right mind and you're not on a street corner somewhere babbling to yourself, I want to know how you got there.
You're right.
And then I'm going to put that in a format so the people coming behind me can learn from that wisdom too.
Absolutely. Because, these young people today are constantly saying, even in our 50s, oh, you're old. Well, I tell people, you better hope that you can live long enough to get in your 50s.
Exactly.
Because you're right, it's a journey. There's so many things that you learn from others, and what I've learned from my family, and you're absolutely 100% right about the fact that if these people are living in their 80s and 90s and 100s, what are they doing right? What you need to learn that and need to understand that they are doing something that has allowed them to be, besides God's gift of living, that the things they have gone through and the things that they have seen, I couldn't even fathom the life of the things that they had to deal with that we don't have to deal with. And even though obviously there are still many things that are going on in our world and our communities that are not resolved and have not, you would think after all the years of the trials and triumphs that people have gone through that we wouldn't have to constantly worry about the racism. We wouldn't have to constantly worry about, all these different tragedies, that we just, it's that consistent circle. And I think a big part of the reason why we're constantly going in this vicious circle is exactly what you're talking about, is that people are not learning those life lessons. That's that family history of what they went through to survive and how they can make it forward. Because if you take those lessons, as you said, they can take the old and bring it with the new, and they can continue to grow and learn and move forward in their life and leave that great legacy for the kids of the future. And they're not doing that. I find actually a little disturbing to some degree how a lot of the younger people really don't want to know the past.
Right.
I see a lot of that today, and it's like, what is it going to take for them to understand that if you don't understand your past, you never can know how to move forward in the future?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And that's the thing we have to think about. And I think the other concept I want to share is that the concept that legacy actually begins at birth. We think of legacy as something that you leave behind when you die. But legacy is the sum total of what you're given through your DNA, through your family, through what you were taught, through your education. And then legacy becomes the product of your choices. Every choice you make creates a legacy, whether it's a good legacy or a bad legacy. I mean, just ask Monica Lewinsky. Her name is equated with a bad legacy because of choices.
Right.
Not because she was forced. She had every opportunity in the world, but choices left her with a legacy that nobody really wants. So choices, the choices we make at 15, the choices we make at 25 will reflect on the life we lived at 55. And so that's another important aspect, and the book actually really brings that out. What are you doing today that's shaping the legacy of tomorrow? And those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. What are you posting on social media? What are you sharing that's going to come back and bite you and get you fired and get you banned from social media? Those also create a legacy. So legacy is huge right now, something we should be thinking about.
Absolutely, and it's very well said. And I could just keep talking all night about this because the book,
know.
Like I said, the book is phenomenal. So when you first see it, first of all, it makes me hungry when I first seen it. But then when you open up and really get into it and understand, truly connect the dots, you are making some phenomenal, eye-opening situations here and providing some great golden nuggets to share with people. And for those who are listening, if you have not gotten this book, you have to go and get this book and learn to understand what, like Miss Mimi says here, what is legacy? And that's the key. You're right. A lot of people put the word legacy in the background. And I even talked about on many occasions that a legacy is how we live today. It's not always about what you do. And you are absolutely right with that. But before we end our show this evening, could you please tell the listeners where they can find the book and how they can get it? And then, of course, if you have anything that you would like to share, any events coming up, please let us know about that as well.
Well, the book can be purchased through my website, and that is MelissaMimi Ewell, EWELL.com. If you didn't get that, then I am on Facebook, Melissa Mimi Ewell, and you can connect with me on Facebook or Instagram under Apostle Mimi or Twitter under Apostle Mimi. If they want to connect with you and get your post to get my page, they can do that. The book is also available on Amazon and any of the websites that sell ebooks. It's available there. So just Google Blackberry Cobbler with my name and you'll be able to get it. At this point, I don't really have any upcoming events at the moment. I'm actually about to take a little vacation, so I don't have anything on my calendar at the moment. But in the next in the next month, there will be a lot of movement concerning ManFast coming out, and I do encourage people to follow us on social media. The web page for Facebook page for ManFast is simply ManFast, ManFast. And we have a vibrant community there where we talk of all things relationships, and you can find out about the things that are going on with the ministry.
All right. Well, Melissa, it has been an awesome evening spending time with you. I thank you for calling me all the way from Ghana. I know this is a huge difference in time, and I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, but it has been such a pleasure talking to you this evening.
Very much. I appreciate it, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me to come on.
It's my pleasure, and thank you. And for everyone else, I'm telling you, if you have not listened to the show, please go back and listen to the replay. You've missed an amazing show this evening with the two amazing authors that I had on here with Dr. Essie McCoy, and then, of course, with Melissa Mimi Ewell. They have two phenomenal books. Go out and support them and purchase them. They're both on Amazon, so there's no reason why you can't say you can find the book. But for us here on the Author's Corner, we're here every month. I will bring you two new great guests every month. If you're interested, though, in being a guest on the show, all you need to do is send me a short bio, book cover, and a professional pic to kimberlymmclemore@gmail.com, and we'll get you signed up for 2020 because there's nothing left for 2019. And I also quickly would like to say that if you are in the New York, Manhattan area on September the 28th, I have 5 amazing authors that are going to be with me for a sip and sign right there in Manhattan. If you would like to learn more information about it, you can go to my author Kimberly McLemore Facebook page and get your tickets. It's $20. You do not want to miss this opportunity to reach out and get your books from these authors. I will be giving away a free book if you come to the event as well, but you need to meet these amazing 5 authors. We're just going to have a great time. But until next time, you all have a great evening and good night.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next month on Friday evening at 7 p.m. EST with 2 more amazing guests. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube,